Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Can I Come Over? We're your hosts,
Nicole.
Jovia.
And Renata.
So, in today's episode, we are going to be talking exclusively about finding your passions and your vocations. An interesting one that we sort of led up to a little bit with a few of our previous episodes, I think.
I think so.
But this is going to be a good one, an interesting one. But before that, as promised, we have our obsessions of the week.
Current obsessions.
Our current obsessions.
I volunteer to read this.
Yes, go ahead.
So, my current obsession has been picnics. I love picnics. They're so lovely and nice, especially during the summertime. I think last year we didn't get to go on like nearly as many picnics as we have been going. And it's been very spontaneous as well. We're completely uncalled for. We're like, guys, the weather's so nice. Let's go out.
Just go.
We're coming out of our caves. And it's been so lovely. The weather's been favorable. There's been some rainy days, but it's like manageable. And the other day as well, when we had our picnic, we had the bread. Like it was like a pre-made garlic bread. And we got some olives. And olives with like
cheese, like feta cheese.
So and we got strawberries, and we had the beautiful idea. That was such a funny moment. But we had the really good idea of getting just a chocolate bar because it was hot. You leave it out to like melt. You open it up, and you have chocolate dipped strawberries. Chocolate covered strawberries. So picnics have been my current obsession.
Love.
We love it. Mine has been this show. Again, are we surprised? Called Chaos. It's on Netflix. And I actually watched a while ago. But it comes with a warning that season 1 ends on a cliffhanger. And then it does not have a season 2. Netflix discontinued it. So, I know. So, that's kind of like a thing. The plot kind of like does dangle in there, but it gives you some sort of a conclusion, but not really. So, watch it at your own discretion.
But not really, so we warned you.
Yes, you've been warned. But the show in general is like a really interesting dark humor take on like Greek mythology. Obviously, I'm sure the purists have a lot of opinion on how it's like everything that has a retelling, it's not gonna be the exact same as the original. That's the point of a retelling, I think. But it's very nice dark humor that's used, a lot of like character building, plot building, world building, but it's great, I think. And a good watch. I think it's not that long, maybe like 8 episodes or something, or 6 episodes maybe. I think it's a good like watch for like a week. I think it's a good one and I would recommend. Yeah.
I also have a show to recommend, my current obsession. It's the show Dairy Girls.
Dairy Girls. They forced
We
me to
all
watch
love it.
It was so
I
good.
love Dairy Girls.
We love Dairy Girls. It is so well made. It's so like humorous and relatable, in so many different contexts. But I love it, and I keep rewatching it when I have nothing to watch as well. It's one of those shows. It's become one of those shows for me. So good. And the Irish accents, I'm obsessed. It's, I don't have words. It's so good. I'm speechless.
No. No word.
But yeah, that's been my current obsession. But I guess we can get into the episode now.
Let's get right into it, please.
Let's get into it. So to like start off, I kind of have like when we think about like passions or like having a vocation, having a dream, I think we may like at the first glance associate it with like positive thoughts of like, doing something bigger, like thinking about the bigger picture, making an impact on the world, nada. But then it can also be sometimes a cause of stress and a little bit of anxiety. And I kind of want to, for a little bit, touch upon that aspect of it, how there's such a pressure to do something that is bigger than yourself and like to do something that's making an impact on the world, and like to have it's almost like a societal idea of having a vocation and having like a calling towards a specific profession or a line of work. And it's a lot of times puts a lot of pressure because when you grow up you may like one thing and you grow out of it and this and that, so there's a lot of ambiguity there, and the need of having one passion is insane. But I like to think of this one thing which may reflect why we in society have this expectation from passions or of passions, of how, like, when you were little, there was a clear distinction between what kind of activities were rewarded and what were not. Like, you study for your school, that's a good way of spending your time for your lessons. You like play the piano, good one. You go to dance classes, good one. You have music lessons, abacus lessons, good one. You play in the mud, that's not going to take you anywhere in life. That's not really worthwhile. But then it questions, like, why does everything have to be worthwhile in the first place? It doesn't have to be. And it also brings in the pressure, when you think about it, of like knowing yourself. Like, it just oftentimes, like, idea of like, oh my god, I don't have a passion, puts you into like an identity crisis of sorts most times, where it's like you need to find a purpose in order to be happy. Like, that whole idea, I think, is pretty haunting.
Purpose and happiness are like intertwined and linked and hyper dependent on each other. That idea is,
it is quite fascinating. But then, like, it brings me to an idea of how, like, not everything really needs to be that deep. It can just be shallow.
Guys, it's not that deep.
It's not that deep. It's not that deep.
It's literally not that deep.
It's not that deep. It's all in your head. But then again, I would like to say that I say that as a overthinker myself, so take it with a pinch of salt. But again, like, the idea of like things not being that deep, or like things not needing to have a bigger purpose or a deeper meaning, brings me to the idea of how can jobs or like can professions just be about finances? Because finances are an important part of any profession, because our world runs on money, and people make money from their jobs, from adding something to the job market and adding something to the specific field that you're in. So do you think that it is important to, like, money can be the only contributing factor
to,
as in like to picking a vocation or like picking up a profession? Can it be just about the money?
It depends on different circumstances.
Yeah.
Because, if you have, like, I don't know, if someone has generational wealth, they might not think about the money aspect of it. They would maybe think about, doing what they're passionate about, even if it's a low paying job, or even if it's like a risky, it's gonna be a risky start, so the money is not guaranteed, things like that. So I think if you think of that context, they might not think about the money aspect.
I think as well, it has to do a lot with what point in your life you're finding yourself out.
Exactly.
Are you now choosing to do the arts or something else because there's no longer this? I think it kind of links, and it puts it really well into question. If somebody has already retired from a formal corporate job and then they decide to pursue a passion which may not leave as much of a monetary impact as one may hope, it no longer matters because they're retired.
Yeah.
They're no longer relying on that finance. And so in that case, it is about the money, right? And like you said, maybe if there's not that pressure and overcoming pressure, then maybe it is about the money. And even if it's not, there's a saying of like money brings happiness, or
money can buy happiness.
Money can buy happiness. I think it's not about happiness. I think it's just about security. It's how can you be happy? How can you live peacefully if you have a constant worry for financial insecurity?
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I also like to preface that having the choice of picking your passion is a luxury that a lot of people don't get. Because again, I feel like us being able to like have this conversation of like thinking like, oh my god, what is my passion?
Mhm.
Or like even having the room in your personal life to sit down and contemplate what your passion is comes from a lot of privilege, because a
Mhm.
lot of people don't get that. For a lot of people, it is about the money. It
Yeah.
is about securing themselves, and for other people, it's about securing their families as well.
Yeah.
And passion is not significant there, because what would I do with passion if I don't have anything to eat?
Mhm.
So for a lot of people, it means a lot of things. And I think definitely I would like to preface what we're saying with the fact that it comes from definitely a little bit of privilege for us that we're able to have this conversation.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people in the world, it is just about the money. Picking a career, picking a profession, it is just about the money. But then again, when we look at those who do have this privilege, you have to think about how long will the money actually last.
Yeah.
And again, with money can buy happiness, money can definitely buy security, but then how much are you going to just be secure and like live?
Mhm.
Like, how long will it just give you joy? Like, for how long is that money going to sustain you? And when is it going to be too much money that you're going to have to rely on like external passions and things like that to give you that satisfaction? And that's why, like, the idea of the fact that there are things beyond money and beyond vocation or passion that can give you like a sort of the joy that you're maybe looking to get from a passionate career. And it can be hobbies that you do not need to be so passionate about, like a second, third, fourth hobby that you have can give you that joy, even if you have an otherwise mundane or stale career that you're not passionate about. You can find that joy elsewhere. It is an option as well.
You know what I'm thinking of? It's like, I think a really good metaphor. I love my metaphors, by the way. A really good metaphor for that is when you have a plate of food, they always tell you to have a balanced diet. And maybe your carbs that day are going to be bland. Maybe you ran out of spices and your rice is just bland, or you're having like a stale piece of bread. That may be your career. Something of substance that will get you through the day that might just be a little bit stale and a little bit empty, but it gets the job done.
Yeah.
And you don't hate it. Maybe the piece of bread is not that bad. And then you have your veggies and your fruits and a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and maybe a sweet treat after your dinner if you have enough space or if you get lucky enough. And I think maybe those bits and pieces that make up the rest of the plate, if that's the way that your plate is balanced, are those hobbies. That part of family, of friendships, of hobbies, of maybe you like to do painting or writing or rock climbing, whatever it is, but they kind of, my plate at the end of the day wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They make up for things that are otherwise bland.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But that sort of like brings me to my point of like how the reputation that 9 to 5s have in today's world. I think like it just makes me question like, is it really that bad as it's being made up to be? And I kind of made myself like a pros and cons list for a 9 to 5 job. So something that I would say is like a pro is the fact that it offers schedule and routine, which I think oftentimes personally I feel like I need routine, because the idea of routine creates the idea of stability. Even though you may not have stability to say, the fact that you have a routine of things to look forward to every day makes the day much easier to deal with, because sometimes the blank canvas is scary. Not that you shouldn't have those days where you have nothing to do, that is important as well. But sometimes the schedule and routine, I feel like to a certain extent, is very important in life. But that brings the negative. That is also the negative with 9 to 5s, where it's like it's too rigid of a schedule, it's too cutthroat. Like you're just in the rat race 24/7 of climbing the corporate ladder, of like being better than the 60 other people who do the same job as you in like your industry, of like being the top one. So I feel like there's also a lot of like pressure there. But again, there's another thing of with 9 to 5's stability, and I mean like not just physical stability, like financial stability as well. 9 to 5's to a certain extent guarantee that, but that stability of having a set routine and a set income has the negative of oftentimes how you compromise on time with family. Where you may be, like, for example, as a parent, if you're employed from at home, you can become a more active parent in your child's life. Not that having a 9 to 5 job prevents you from um, being an important part of your child's life, it just requires more effort. With being self employed, to a certain extent, it comes a little bit more easier because you're physically present.
But you know what? I think it's the complete opposite. And I say this from my personal experience. Having someone at home who is self employed oftentimes is a complete opposite, because then, depending on the workload, and especially if it's something that's relatively inconsistent, they might be around the house in physical presence, but this person is not necessarily there all the time, right? At the events or at the functions or at this and that. And ironically enough, like you said, 9 to 5 can offer a lot of stability and this like very defined line that I've, friends that have been recently joining the workforce and have started getting jobs and all that stuff. They said, I love that about my 9 to 5. I go to work, I work 9 to 5, or if anything, this and that. I get home, and then it's me time. I get to work on myself. I get to spend quality time with my family. You're not worrying about answering work calls or emails, or I need this meeting at that time, or all that sort of stuff. So I think it also in that case depends on what type of self-employment you're talking about. But from what I've seen, it's, if anything, the complete opposite, where that it's another one for the pros list, guys.
I think I agree to disagree here. Because that's expectations of 9 to 5. What you described as a 9 to 5 is an expectation of a 9 to 5. But oftentimes it looks different in the sense that you're still on work, even if you're not physically in your office. You're still picking up calls. Like, the corporate culture, almost to a certain extent, is so bad that you're 24/7 working. And I feel like this is my understanding of being self-employed, you have yourself to report to. Like here, like I have seen at least, constantly on call, constantly on like a video call with someone in a completely different time zone at 3 a.m. Like so I think it's both fields definitely have. Being self-employed to a certain extent also kills the work-life balance, and being employed at a 9 to 5, a corporate or like any sort of 9 to 5 job also kills the work-life balance to a certain extent, I think. But again, like there's another point that with stable income, it is where, like, when it comes to income, it is stable. It is guaranteed that you will have a paycheck next month. Even if you're like, when you're self-employed, if a project doesn't go through, there's a lot of uncertainty. But when you are employed with a corporate or like with a 9 to 5, and there's a company behind your back, if you falter, someone else is going to pick up and it's going to keep the thing flowing. So there's stability there. But at the same time, when you're self-employed, you have control over your finances. It's you're not constantly working for a raise, and I mean like for a pay raise. But what do we think in general of this? Like, which one are you in favor of? Which one are you opposing to?
I have seen, like, because during the pandemic there was work from home. So it wasn't necessarily self-employment, but it was also like being at home and everything. And I have seen both, like the 9 to 5 and also just working from home. Both of these type of jobs just consuming the person. And I think all in all, it's just the type of work ethic and the type of person that you are at the end of the day, because I have seen both sides where people are able to balance it, and then on the other hand, there's people who are completely consumed by their work as well, even if it's a 9 to 5 or if it's like hybrid, remote, work from home, whatever it is. But personally, I know that I wouldn't enjoy a 9 to 5 because I would get bored easily, like with the routine. But like I get bored very easily, and I love, especially with the university right now, how we don't have like a set timetable of things. I like that because I like how flexible my schedule is and how I I have more room to be spontaneous rather than with the 9 to 5. I feel like I would be very restricted. It's not for me. I think, I don't know.
Person to person.
Yeah, obviously. There's no right or wrong here. It's just this or that.
I don't know. I think it comes down again. I basically the same thing as Nicole. Same thing as Nicole.
Yeah, I would be in the middle, I think, here. Because I see pros of both, and I see cons of both.
I want to bring up the point again of, you had briefly just mentioned it, the idea of like having one passion or one career. And it's like, there's data that backs this up when I say what I'm going to say is that an average person changes careers at least 5 to 7 times in their life. And by the age of 42, especially in the current 21st century that we are living in, by the age of 42 years old, they would have had at least 10 jobs. And it could be 10 jobs in the same field or 10 jobs in different fields of career. That is, that's what the whole point of finding your passion and career is, I think. But why do you think we're conditioned to, think that we can only have one passion or career?
I think it has to do with like maybe a little, I don't know, maybe when you just mentioned it, my head suddenly went to the hustle mentality of how oftentimes it's like you work and you work and you work, you have like a goal, and it's not forgivable, like it's unforgivable to deviate from that. Like even if for a little bit you want to do something else and just at some point in the future come back to it, it's not like the hustle culture almost has created that. That's like the first thing that popped in my head when you said that.
Yeah, I think it's similarly to that, the idea that especially the corporate world is reliant a lot on efficiency. It's a lot more efficient to just have one person, not have to work about rehiring this and that.
Yeah.
So it might just be conditioning from a larger systematic machine, like just from a larger system that is, rewards certain type of behavior, even things as longevity within a company, and there's a specific name for it, seniority. Things like that.
Yeah.
And even how when it comes to age of retirement, those things are also rewarded within a company. So the entire system is basically set up to condition you to pick up one job, pick up a passion, dedicate your entire life to it, and then as good job, here you go, more money, go have a happy life.
Exactly. That's exactly what I wanted to say as well. Like, it's just years and years of conditioning from the corporate world, specifically of just it's like a reward system. The more you work in this one specific field or one specific job, and the more seniority that you gain, the more rewarding it can get. And that's the whole like conditioning of it. But there's also, the whole idea of, like, I've heard this a lot, especially when I was doing research on this, and on TikTok, people often say, like, when they're giving monologues about passions or making edits about finding your passion, etc., the one thing that I've noticed is people often saying that if you openly express your love for a certain activity or a certain hobby or your job, etc., then that increases your passion for it. I was so, like, it got me really curious as to why this was a recurring type of conversation that was going on. And I couldn't really find much on why people were saying that. But the way that I thought of it is that, the more you openly express yourself and, like, as in express your love for something, the more you get compliments on it. And again, it's a system, like a societal system of us always comparing ourselves with other people and always seeking validation in terms of the things that we're doing, even if it is just our hobbies.
Yeah.
Even if it is simply me drawing a picture of a flower, I will show it around to people and be like, what do you think?
I think it's something I can't pinpoint the theory right now, but it's something rooted in psychology and sociology specifically, the way that it's the same exact concept as when kids are little and if they're told, oh, you're so good at math, even
Yeah.
if that's not true, kids are then conditioned to then believe that they are good at
Yeah.
math
Exactly.
and actively put more effort and invest in it because of the fact that they're good at
So
math.
Yeah.
Same thing goes backwards. If they're told they're bad at arts and it's a recurrent message, then you're conditioned to believe that you're bad at arts.
Yeah.
You're conditioned to believe that you're bad at this. So I think it probably has something to do with that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
the validation.
The validation of it all.
Yeah. There's a specific theory and it has to do with like internalization, like internalizing certain traits and messages.
Yeah, because when I feel
I
like,
remember.
I feel like, yeah, I think I get what you mean. Where it's like when as a kid you hear something, you believe it and you internalize it, and the idea of like a little bit deviating from this topic, but the idea of like the golden child, or like, you know, it's often like when everyone around you is telling you that you're good at it, like you're perfect, like that you're this, you're that, you internalize it, and even if that's not what you want or that's not who you are, you still channel it from somewhere.
Yeah, and then afterwards it's like a loop.
It's like a cycle.
Yes,
it's a cycle.
yes.
Exactly. And so it's gotten to a point where people are constantly seeking for validation, even if it's a simple hobby. You know, it doesn't have to be their job. It could just be something that they're doing part time, like to relax and get their mind off of it. But it's so taxing and it's become over exhausting to so many people now. And there's a lot of data backing it up. But people often resort to their hobbies in the first place as a form of relaxation to escape from their corporate jobs or whatever jobs it may be. Or there's also people who find jobs that they're passionate about and then fall out of love with those jobs. For example, I've heard a lot of musicians talk about how they started making music and, you know, professionally because of how passionate they were about it. But then as the years passed by, they fell out of love with the profession. And that is again, I think, to do with the whole when you put behind, like, there's so many things that goes behind the validation that you get from the profession and the money aspect, how much are you earning from it,
The
financial validation, all of these things, and then that leads to, you know, if things are not going well, then that leads to you falling out of love for that profession, and in turn this all just leads to overexhaustion and burnout, and then you're left with nothing.
I think it's a good question to ask. Like, what do you guys think it's best to monetize your passion and risk burnout, or to stick to something you're not passionate about and brings you financial reassurance, and in turn invest your additional time or your free time into said passions?
Yes.
Yeah, like
that's a good ponder about it.
Ponder about it. Let us know what you guys think.
Ponder. Almost like the idea of like having your main, because you know, like it brings up the idea of diversified income. Where it's like having your main income source reliant on something that does not have a lot to do with your passions or your hobbies, so that even if you one day hate your passion or if you one day grow out of it, you can still have that as a reliable income source, and then you can have your minor, more smaller kind of hobbies diversified into smaller streams of passive income. Or like even like if you feel like your passion is strong enough that you need to have something fruitful out of it, it can be a smaller passive income.
Adulting 101.
Adulting 101, diversified incomes.
Diversified income.
Yeah, but that's basically it, like, you know. But there's also like people, like I saw this one article, I will leave it in the description, I don't have it noted down right now, but it was using the example of someone who is really passionate about crocheting,
Mhm.
and they're so good at it, and they're, crocheting bucket hats and bags, etc., whatever. And they're getting a lot of encouragement from family and friends to start a business, and like a small business on Etsy. So they start selling their products on Etsy, the things that they're making by hand. But then they in turn compare these projects to other people on Etsy who have similar businesses, and then they're demotivated again.
Mhm.
And it's the cycle,
Mhm.
and it's just stems from how critical we are of ourselves. We are our biggest critiques. We often forget that it's not necessary that we have to be perfect at everything.
Mhm.
And in turn, this perfectionism turns into us wanting to lose, or happening to lose, passion for certain things.
Like we said, it's not that serious.
It's not that deep.
It's not that serious.
And we're hyper fixated on becoming better at this thing because other people are better than me. I have to be better than them. And it can stem from, like, an educational background. If you went to a school that was constantly making competition a thing, or if you came from a familial background that always encouraged comparisons, it could stem from that, or it could just be like an internalized battle. um but that's another aspect of it, of the overexhaustion and hobbies. However, I also think that we humans are creatures who love to explore. We are creatures of exploration. We therefore cannot really succumb to just one passion, or one singular hobby, or one singular career. And it's important to remember that you can have multiple passions, you can have multiple hobbies, and your life is not set in stone. So there's time for you to figure out what you want to do, and there's time for you to figure out if you want to venture into other career paths as well. It is definitely a stressful process, and it's easier said than done, but it's important to not be so hard on ourselves. Kindness is free. Kindness is free. So just, yeah. But on that note, let's take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back. All right, so let's start wrapping this whole thing up. We've talked about passions, we've talked about the corporate world, we've talked about, the idea that you only have this like one big vocation in life. And the reality, like Nicole said, it's not that. Like, we change our passion so constantly. And I think changing, and this idea of like changing dreams as well, is a huge thing that as we begin to grow and as we begin to take our new jobs and go on into different fields and all that sort of stuff, you can have a lot of mixed emotions about it. And there's this one article by Susanna Newsonman titled When Your Dreams Change. So this was published on Psychology Today. And she talks about the fact that one of the most constant and inevitable parts of life is change itself. You can't control it. And the fact that it's so out of your control makes you feel even powerless at times of these situations. You might have had something in mind, this one first initial childhood dream that you had always aspired to have or pursue, but because life is full of surprises, this changes. And it's hard, especially when you feel that that change was so sudden.
Yeah.
It's especially when we're growing up, looking up and having all these dreams, and the typical question of, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? You have this like one thing in mind, and then later uncertainty grows and time changes and you realize different things and you pick up different hobbies and it flips you upside down. And the fact that your dreams change is not a sign of failure.
No, it's
It's
not.
not a sign that you've done something wrong per se. It's not giving up. It is not letting someone else down. It is simply change. And I think that's a really tough pill to swallow at times, because it might not just be, oh, I'm letting other people down, it's I'm letting myself down. Because you had put all those expectations and dreams and goals, and it feels so heavy when you realize that all of a sudden everything that you had set out for yourself you no longer can accomplish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you're letting a younger version of yourself down. And
Yeah,
that's really sort of sad.
that's really sad. Are you kidding? You're making a little 4-year-old cry? No. And, Nusanen also talks about how when you find yourself in this point, oftentimes you completely lose a sense of direction. You don't know what's happening, you don't know what's up or down, you don't know where you stand in life. It can impact so many other aspects because you don't have passion there. You don't have this one drawing line. And even if it's no longer, we talked about, should you turn your passion into your full-time job or should you keep it to the side? Whatever it is, the fact that you do have a passion in itself gives you a sense of purpose, gives you a sense of direction, something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Just like people have that in our lives. Family, friends, colleagues, even our pets at times. They give you a sense of purpose, and passion does that. And when you have that taken away from you, you feel extremely disoriented.
Yeah.
And so it can get very overwhelming. And Yusuman gives us 4 steps to process this negative feelings that come with change. And the negative change that is losing passion. It's nothing, again, you're not failing anyone. It's just this really bad, horrible feeling
Yeah.
that you have because
You don't know.
you don't know. You just
don't
simply
know.
don't know. And so here it goes. There's a 4-step process. First of all, is acknowledging that it's okay for your dreams to change. It's okay to change your mind. We're humans. We always say things, take them back. We learn about new aspects, new perspectives. We're allowed to change. It's only human to change. And then once we do acknowledge that change, it's then important to grieve the dream that you're letting go of. That you've spent so much time, energy, dedication sometimes to building yourself towards a dream that you're now having to part from fully.
It's bittersweet.
It's bittersweet, and a lot of the times the bitterness is just so overwhelming.
Yeah.
It deserves its time to be grieved. It's a version of yourself that you're grieving as well. And it doesn't matter at what point in time, it doesn't matter how long it has been since you've had to let go or since that change has happened. It's important for you to acknowledge and grieve, and then later on to reconnect with who you are today. Who am I? And it's a huge, scary question, because when you have that passion taken away from you or it's no longer there, who am I? What is my purpose?
Yeah,
What do I do?
Yeah.
And it's a lot of exploration. Nicole mentioned it. We have to try. We have to do new things and test new places. And we can't just sit still in one place. We have to have different hobbies. And maybe one of them will stick, maybe others won't. And before you know it, you've found your passion again. And in order to come full circle, you need to nurture that growth. And that is the last and 4th step of it. Acknowledge, grieve, reconnect, and nurture.
A grin. A grin.
A grin. And yeah, and I think it's more than anything like that, this whole idea of like it's okay to acknowledge growth and the fact that you're going through all of these things. There's another article by Trixia Abrera titled "Why It's Okay to Outgrow Dreams and Start Over." And quote, she says, "I used to believe that sticking to a dream, no matter how much it resonated with who I was a matter of perseverance." Again, this whole thing of like letting yourself down, that no matter if you are no longer passionate about it, or if it hurts, or if whatever it is, you just have to stick to it, because I've already stuck to it for so long. What else am I gonna do?
Yeah.
And with it, there's this lingering sense of failure of, if I decide to let go of this, then what's gonna happen? Especially when you have, this is more towards passions that you've kind of dedicated and you've had the opportunity and the luxury to spending a lot more time investing your time, energy, and space for. And then later on, she goes on to say that it's not that you don't have the skill or the drive, but the stress of it all takes a toll. When people tell you is, oh, you're just lazy, oh, you're just this, when it's picking up new hobbies, sometimes it's not that. It's genuinely just the stress that not having a passion can cause in a person, that is what causes you to then take a step back and sometimes overthink. It's not that you're incapable, it's not that you're lazy, that you don't have the drive or what it takes. This phrase that they use in movies a lot, you don't have what it takes. You don't have what it takes.
And next thing you know, it's a whole identity crisis.
It's a whole identity crisis, and then they go to this cool montage of them dedicating time and
We have coming of age movies to blame.
Yeah, all of them. And I think it's more than anything, and especially when you're having really big milestones that reshape your world, like it is graduating from high school, or graduating from university, or getting your first job, or losing your first job, or even later down the line, getting your kids out the nest, as they say. It's this sinking feeling of, what do I do now? What am I gonna do?
Because it's all change.
Everything is different. Everything is changed, and you don't know what else that bigger change brings upon you. Maybe you went to music school and music school didn't turn out, but like we've said before, you should try new things, and you never know, and you're gonna change your vocation so many times. And I think we have to allow ourselves the liberty to not be so stern with ourselves, because creativity is not stuck to one part. And it's scary, the thought of, maybe I found my passion and maybe I let it pass by, but maybe you'll reconnect with it, or maybe you'll find something better, but you will not know unless you try.
Yeah, and you can love a lot of things at the same time.
Exactly.
I think
It's
we
not like
we all have big hearts.
We all have big hearts.
We have enough room to
That's
love
another
many
thing.
things.
People frequently are like, oh, but I don't know if I can love this and love that. Love is not something tangible.
Yeah.
Love is simply a feeling that you get with your gut and you go with it. And if you love to paint, love to draw, love science, and I don't know, love space, you can do all of those things, guys. We encourage. And I think to wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you guys with a quote that I picked up from the last article, which I loved, that says, "Growth is the only evidence of life," by John Henry Newman.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's simple.
Simple.
But very effective.
Very effective. Lovely as well. I think
it's the little bit maybe touching on the idea of how change is the only constant.
Change is the only constant, guys. Terrifying, especially for perfectionists here, over planner here, talking like if I don't have it on my schedule, I will tweak. And so when things don't go to plan, and when passions deviate, and when things are turned upside down, it can be very tiring and exhausting and taxing. But if change is really the only constant, go with the flow.
Learn to embrace it.
Learn to embrace it.
Yeah. Like we obviously have. We are so good at it. I'm just kidding. I'm sarcastic.
Okay, we're still learning. Remember that everything that we tell you in this podcast is we're experiencing a lot of the things for the first time. Some of them we haven't yet.
Yes.
We're just
Also telling half of it to ourselves.
Yeah, trust me. We'll say something in the podcast, and then after the next day, we'll cry about it and be like, "No, but remember what we said yesterday. Remember
We're
what
not
we said?
hypocrites.
We're not hypocrites."
Sometimes.
Sometimes we are, and it's all about change, and it's okay. And put this in your head, please. Ingrain it in your brain. Progress is never linear. Always have to remind myself this. Always have to remind
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
Like everyone that's around me, even with the 4-step process to navigate change, it's never gonna be linear. Never, ever, ever
Exactly.
gonna be linear. But you have to push through, and you have to try to stick to it, and you never know what the future's gonna hold.
Yeah.
You never
That's the
know what
beauty of
you're.
it.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it, guys. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that we were of some help, that we're able to give you some insights. Please let us know what you think our next passions are going to be, and what your next passions are going to be. I don't know. Maybe there's something that we need to try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Come knocking on the door whenever you want. Bye.
Bye.